Yo, Joe. Codename Stalker. G.I. Joe Fire Team Alpha Leader. Fireman Alonzo Wilkinson. Grade E9. Command Sergeant Major U.S. Armies. Birthplace Detroit, Michigan. Primary specialty infantry explosive ordnance disposal. Secondary specialty medic. Interpreter. Qualified expert. M14, M16, M19 11A1 auto pistol. M3A1 grease gun. M32 pulverizer submachine gun. Graduated top of class basic combat training, advanced infantry training, top of class U.S. Army language school, fluent in English, Spanish, Arabic, French, and Swahili. Intelligence school, top of class. Preferred weapon, M32 pulverizer submachine gun. Warlord of a large urban street gang. Prior to enlistment, generals may win campaigns, but it's the sergeants who win the battles by taking charge and kicking butt. Stalker served in the LRRPs with snake eyes and storm shadows, so he's no stranger to winning battles first and asking questions later. Any G.I. Joe who has heard him shout, "Let's party!" in the thick of a firefight knows that he means business. Once Stalker starts wielding his razor-sharp machete in one hand and firing a missile launcher in the other, there's no escape for any snake that dares to stand in his way. That's a simple fact Cobra Commander will have to live with if he manages to live at all. As one of the original G.I. Joe team members, he had many successful campaigns against Cobra. He's a take charge kind of guy, intelligent, perceptive, and remains composed under stressful situations. When the government closed down the G.I. Joe program, he decided to return to his hometown to give something back to the community. Stalker established a gang intervention program to clean up the streets. He received word that the team was reorganizing into the original members and decided to return along with his comrades. From General Oswald, he has the experience and the knowledge to handle tough situations. Stalker seems to have the reflexes of a jungle cat, but he almost knows what his opponents are going to do before they do it. I call that skill. He calls it being perceptive, very dead, and it's the asset to our ranks. He works best under stress. His mind is like a steel trap with really sharp teeth. I feel sorry for the enemy that sticks their foot in. Fight with me and win, or fight against me, be annihilated. Follow me, and I'll lead you to victory. You have to be thorough and patient, because one mistake can be deadly. Fight with me and win, or fight against me and be annihilated. Follow me, and I'll lead you to victory. You have to be thorough and patient, because one mistake can be deadly.
You don't listen, no, I got a story to tell about a guy named Logan, so swell. He's the G.I. Joe gamer. Cool and weird, talking about those characters, heroes, and villains at midnight we shout. You're Joe or Cobra, trucking up to team in a Cobra tie. Joe's got snake eyes, a silent ninja in black. Quick with his swords, he'll give you a heart attack. Then there's two the leader, so bold, gung-ho, always ready to fight and make those cameos. And we can't forget about Scarlet, the ultimate girl power. A fierce warrior, she'll make her enemies cower. Cobra's got Destro to supply the weapons. Cobra command, plots and schemes. She ruling the world in his dreams. Sartan is never what he seems, and Baroness rocks that black leather outfit. Shoots you quick and slip out the back of the head. Yo, Joe, Cobra, oh. Logan's here to give his G.I. Joe taste. Oh yeah, yo, Joe, Cobra talking characters, it's the G.I. Joe thing.
Warning. Mature content warning. Possible language, adult innuendos, and violent implications may be heard in this program. From the Hilt cautions. Viewer discretion is advised.
It could get pretty funky up in here. Hells yeah. Hey, hello, I'm Logan the G.I. Joe Gamer. How's it going? Yo, Joe, Cobra. Joe Fest going on right now, I know, and I'm not able to be there, but, you know, that's such is life. I've never actually been to any of those. I would love to go to one someday. We got Banger in the house. Hello, Banger. How you doing, my friend, my bro? It's good to see you. I'm thinking about moving these back to Thursday if this doesn't do very well, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So today I've got 7 of my Joe takes lined up for you because I wanted to include all of Ladies Month from back last year. Let's see, you and me we'll go together one day. I hope so, bro. I hope so. That'd be nice. Hey, C Bizzle, how you doing? Yo, Joe. If you're into Joes, I got some opinions for you on some 7 different characters today. Well, actually, one's a troop builder, so I got Cobra Ninjas in there too. Please do these on Thursdays. Yeah, I really think I should go back to the Thursday nights. Yeah. Hey, C Bizzle. Yes, for sure. Good to see you. All right. Yeah, I haven't exactly had the best week with my asthma, and it's kicking me again today. But I will be behind the icon so it's not confusing. So when I'm on talking live, that you'll see me like this. And without further ado, let's get these Joe takes a rolling, and we'll get into this. See if we can get this going here. I'm Christopher Logan Hilt, the G.I. Joe Gamer. I am doing another episode of Joe Takes. This is number 21. And tonight, or today, I should say, we're taking a look at Tomax and Xamot from the Hilt. So we'll start with the vintage figures. Now, I really like Tomax and Xamot. They're an interesting duo. I thought it was cool that they were originally sold in a 2-pack. And if I am not mistaken, they were the original G.I. Joe 2-pack. So you have a better look at them and maybe put the right ones up. And there we go. This one. Okay. This one. Okay. Now, they came each with this pistol. And it wasn't bad. It's kind of interesting back in the day. They came with this zip line holder. Well, it's the device that connects to the zip line, and it came with this little black cord. I don't have that anymore. I honestly don't know what I did with it over the years. I have had these 2 guys since they came out, so I probably picked them up in '86, probably about a year after they came out. But I bought them new in the store, and that was kind of cool. Now, I don't have a lot of Tomax and Xamot figures because that was the only ones in the vintage line that they had. There was a couple in the 2000s that came out. There were O-rings that I wanted to show you. Now, I don't want to get these guys mixed up because the only way to tell these 2 apart in this, and that's a running gag, is Xamot has a scar on his face. And that's the only way to tell these guys apart. So I will keep Xamot like I'm doing down here with the other tones. I'll keep Xamot in my right hand and Tomax in my left. That's because they're opposite. So I want to keep them opposite. So let's see. Now these were they came with the Crimson Command Copter, which I'll give you a closer look at Tomax here without the scar. So. And they were in these little cool pilot's outfits that, were for the helicopter. Oddly enough, it was a 3-seater helicopter and came with 2 figures. But it was cool to get them, and that is a cool helicopter. And I was going to break it out and show you, but it's in my storage area, and I'm not getting that anytime soon. When I move things around to have my studio, I'll probably be able to do that. But that's taking longer than I thought, and issues have compounded on me to get that done. So, not having any carded figures, I just have to look at some of the boxes for the classified. Now, it's hard to look at Tomax and Xamot, who are the Crimson Guard commanders, without actually taking a look at the Crimson Guard. Now, I am saving all the Crimson Guard details. I've got 2 of these, and I will pop them up here together because I am going to be doing a Crimson Guard video, but I'm going to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how many of these I can collect so that I can have at least as many as I have of my vintage. So that means I've got to get at least 1 more of them, and I have 3 of the Crimson Guard Immortals, and I don't necessarily count those, but I'd like to have at least 5. That would be cool. But the Tomax and Xamot box, however, for each character. Now, I think they missed an opportunity. I think this, again, should have been the first 2-pack for the classified series, or at least, that was regular release like Tomax and Xamot were. Now, we've had other multi-packs for the classified series, but not for something like this, not for really a regular release, at least not that I can remember. I know we had Crocmaster and his Crocodile, and Snake Eyes and Timber, but does that, that's not really a 2-pack of figures. Now, I don't know why they decided to sell them separately as number 44 and 45, but they did. I did like the fact that you could put the boxes together, although backwards, which is kind of funny because they're supposed to be mirror images. So that actually works. And that looks really cool. And I'm glad somebody put together a really nice picture that I was able to find online. And I was able to use it as the thumbnail for On Joe Takes 21 and as part of the thumbnail for this video. Now, that just brings us to the figures for the classified series, and we'll look at Tomax first, and they're pretty much identical figures, only mirrored backwards of each other, and Xamot has the scar naturally. And in the comics, they really played that whole scar issue up when Cobra Commander, both Cobra Commander and Serpentor would call them by the wrong name. They would instantly say, if they called Xamot Tomax, he'd go, "I'm Xamot, the one with the scar." And Tomax, if they called him Xamot, he'd be like, "I'm Tomax, the one without the scar." It was kind of funny in the comics. And I did like the fact that their voices were on the cartoon were completely different. The Sunmo cartoon, that was nice. Their appearance on G.I. Joe Renegades was really cool too. But they were really different, and they had these metal powers, and the aspect that they played up on that I thought was really neat. So let's take a look at Xamot and see if we can get a good look at his scar, because that's the major difference between the two. Now, I think they missed an opportunity because on the original vintage figures, they had a sidearm on molded to the figure and a big gun. So I don't know why they didn't give each of them a sidearm. Instead, they gave them each 2 knives, which is cool. And these knives, they're the same. So basically, you get 4 of these jagged bladed daggers, basically. And they have put one on the leg or the ankle, and then one on the waist. And that's cool, but what made the pistol on the leg make sense was it showed what handed they were. And Xamot was originally left-handed, and Tomax was originally right-handed based on where the pistols were on the leg. Now, I know in a lot of instances they were weird about that on the action figures, that a lot of them were left-handed when they probably shouldn't have been. But on the box art, we got Tomax here with the pistol in the left hand, and then Xamot with the right. So it's like, is this us looking at them in the mirror? Or did they even care? I'm not really sure. Hasbro does have some issues with quality control, and are we just being nitpicky fans? Maybe I am. I don't know, but Xamot's supposed to be left-handed and Tomax is supposed to be right-handed. They're supposed to be mirror twins, which in reality there is such a thing with mirror twins that they actually have the organs on the opposite side of the body. And so I always played it up that way, that Xamot had his heart on the left and all that. Everything was backwards. And that's actually an interesting, weird anomaly in human beings, where twins can be born with organs on the wrong side when they're more than one baby in the womb. I think that's really fascinating, and I wish they'd have done that more with Tomax and Xamot, or played up on that, or maybe. I know back in the 80s they probably didn't really know about that, but these things have come to light in more recent years. So I guess that takes us to the comic book. Tomax and Xamot appeared in, I'm pretty sure that's issue 37, but let me get my cheaters to make sure. Yes, issue 37. And also it has Flint, and it looks like Xamot on the cover. Now, they got that mixed up a lot. Not so much in the comics, but in the cartoon, they had them backwards completely. The way they were, the way they dressed and everything. They definitely had the scar on the wrong side and all that, but I digress. This one also had Footloose. I'll bring this up here so you get a closer look. This was the direct sales edition, so it didn't have a UPC or barcode is what we call it now. We used to call it a UPC back then. I've already shown off this one. This is 38. And I just dig the comic books. And in this issue, when they first appeared, only one of them revealed themselves to the Joes at first. And they were actually communicating telepathically back and forth. And after that issue, I don't really remember if Larry Hama did much with that. And I don't think he ever did if one got hurt, the other one felt it in the comic book at all. Now, they were pretty much loyal to Cobra Commander throughout the whole series. Now, during the Civil War, Cobra's first Cobra Civil War, it seemed like they were on Serpentor's side and sided with Serpentor. But I'm pretty sure they were doing that to keep an eye on him and to make sure that he lost. Because when Cobra Commander came back, Tomax and Xamot was right with him, and the Crimson Guard had protected him the whole time, and he didn't have them killed as traitors. So if they weren't traitors and they sided with Serpentor, that means they were following orders from Cobra Commander the whole time, and that they were there to make sure that that Serpentor lost to the imposter Cobra Commander Fred the Seventh, the Crimson Guardman. Which is kind of funny, because you would think that they would know. I mean, it was supposed to be a secret, but pretty much everybody knew that Fred the Seventh wasn't Cobra Commander, and they pretty much had guessed where he came from to know so much about Cobra. But as the series progressed, and they appeared sporadically. They weren't in a lot in the comics. It was like Cobra Commander used them for the purpose they were meant for. They were meant to lead the elite in everything. They were meant to get them elected into offices, and they were meant to put them in jobs and positions where they could accumulate power politically and financially. And I think he really didn't. He reserved them for that more so than the battlefield. Now, yes, they took place on the battlefield in the Cobra Civil War. They did this one a little bit. Mostly they used their Crimson Guard, though. And the other time that I really remember them being in the field was when they were leading that group of Vipers and Cobra Troopers in Trucial Bisbia, when they had captured the Joes, and they misinterpreted Cobra Commander's order and thought they were supposed to kill the Joes. And so the Saw Viper stepped up and did it for them. And that's a really dark day in the comics, but because we lost quite a few Joes in that issue. But Tomax and Xamot were the leaders of that mission. It was kind of weird. They were when they're when money is involved. Tomax and Xamot were generally leading those missions. Like in Trucial Abysmia, it was because I'm pretty sure that's the name of that fictitious country. But they were all there. Cobra Commander and Cobra was after the oil in that country, so it makes sense that he'd have his elite financial advisors there right on the front lines. Now, maybe not so much leading a team against the Joes, but it was nice, and we didn't get to see Tomax and Xamot very often, so it was cool to see them in that capacity, every once in a while. And that was a really cool series of issues in the early 100s, right up till 109 when that happened. I'm pretty sure it was 109. Anyway, so in the comics, their role was strictly the Crimson Guard. They had, other than that, they had no real place in the Cobra hierarchy ever that they really mentioned. I mean, a little bit when Destro took over, they had a presence there, but they really didn't get involved. And they were always kind of lieutenants to a captain. It was kind of weird. Baroness would take charge of the Cobra consulate building, and they would be there, and she would be in charge. And when Zarana showed up, and she was given command of the consulate building, which was weird, but she did. They were subordinate to her in that too, and it was like, well, aren't they the Crimson Guard commanders? But whatever. In some instances, I think that that's how the Cobra hierarchy saw them. They were just the leaders of the Crimson Guard, and so that was their function, and that's what they did. Now, in the Sunbow cartoon, it was kind of completely opposite. Now, this week I did a little bit of research, and I watched some Tomax and Xamot Sunbow cartoon episodes. I watched Red Rocket's Glare, I watched Money to Burn, and I watched Cobra's Candidate, and definitely not in that order. But I forced myself to do this research. Then I treated myself, and I watched the Funhouse afterwards. So that's one of my favorite episodes. So that's where I'm at with that. But then in Red Rocket's Glare, they had this scam going where they were selling people franchises, mostly retirement couples, of this restaurant, the Red Rocket chain of hamburger joints, and it ended up being that Roadblock's aunt and uncle bought one, and that was really cool. That was actually a really good Cobra plan, and if they hadn't stumbled upon the whole thing with Roadblock's aunt and uncle, they probably wouldn't have been able to figure out that all those missiles were actually on top of the restaurants. And it was kind of a weird thing that they were selling the franchises and then buying them back. But my wife and I, the Tiger, were talking about that day before yesterday, and it occurred to us, and well, it occurred to me, and I pointed it out that Tomax and Xamot were making a profit. They were selling the franchises at a high rate and buying them back low, so they were making money off that. So not only were they fulfilling their orders for Cobra Commander, but they were making a profit for themselves. That's what they did. And then we had Cobra's Candidate, where they were backing a mayoral candidate in Chicago, I'm pretty sure it was. And Scarlett led this team of Joes. And Colonel Sharp talked to her on the radio at the beginning. It was like, we're sending in a unit of Joes. And she said, we're a handful, not a unit. And it was kind of neat. But it was mainly her and Lady J in that going up against Tomax and Xamot. But they also had Snake Eyes, Spirit, and Zap in that one. It was really cool. And one of my favorite scenes ever in a G.I. Joe cartoon was in that. But I'll talk about that in a minute. Spirit, Snake Eyes, and Zap got captured by the Dreadnoks and some teenagers. It was really weird. It was clear that they were holding back the Joes, but in that because they were Tomax and Xamot were utilizing street gangs, young teenagers, to harass people into not voting for their candidate, which in turn made it so they would vote for their candidate. It was kind of an interesting plot and an idea that Cobra Commander had, and it was definitely Cobra Commander's idea, And while the others were captured, Lady J and Scarlet went and tried to see what was going on at Extensive Enterprises, because the candidate they were sent to protect, they followed him right back to Extensive Enterprises and found out that he was working for Cobra, but they couldn't prove it, So it was kind of interesting how they were like, "Oh yeah, we got to help him, but we know he's working for Cobra, so we're really not trying to." It was interesting after that point, and there was a scene. Well, in Red Rocket's Glare, there was a scene where Lady J Flint got her to break into Extensive Enterprises, and she mentioned that she was afraid of heights, and then she fell off Extensive Enterprises, and then she managed to get a spear into the bottom of the dragonfly that Flint was holding, and she saved herself. But in Cobra's Candidate, she ended up falling off Extensive Enterprises again, and her and Scarlet had climbed the outside of it, and she was like, again, I'm afraid of heights and all this crap. And her best friends, Flint and Scarlet, really, if you think about it, they were her best friends. They were forcing her to face her fears, and she ended up falling and grabbing one of the cords that they were using to climb with suction cups and Scarlet's crossbow. It was kind of interesting the way they did that. But Tomax and Xamot ended up falling off the building completely in that one, and they fell into a trash can. They should have been dead, but they weren't. And Scarlet just closed the lid on them and said, "Good riddance to bad rubbish." And it's like, but they could be dead. She didn't even look. She just closed the lid on them. But it's a kid's cartoon, so you knew they weren't dead. But then back in Red Rocket's Glare, when they fell off the building, they pushed a little button on their wristbands, and these poles came out, and they started grabbing a hold of them and flipping down all acrobatic like. They were portrayed as very acrobatic, like they'd been in the circus or something. They could perform feats of agility that were just incredible, and for a cartoon, that was kind of interesting. Now we come full circle to money to burn. And the whole concept of that was Cobra Commander again had this really good idea. He'd burn up all the money and then replace it with his own currency, which was an interesting and devious plot. And the Joes actually worked their butts off to stop that plan. But in general, Cobra usually screwed up their own plan, and not in this instance. In that one, Tomax and Xamot started the episode off by jumping out of an airplane above the Extensive Enterprises tower, doing some flips and landing on the roof of their building, and then just walking inside. And it's like, okay, we're gonna suspend our disbelief for that for just a second, just because it was awesome. But that was the cartoon, and that episode again had Lady J going up against them in disguise, and it seemed like Lady J and them had this rivalry going. And there was a scene with Tomax and Lady J where they were chasing Lady J on skis, and Lady J fell over, and Tomax went, "I'll go collect her," and he went down to get her, and he grabbed a hold of her spear, and they were struggling with it, and there was this whole exchange with them where Tomax said he always was willing to be in a competition of somebody obviously so inferior in a contest of strength. And Lady J said, "I feel the same way about intelligence." She pushed a button, and a rocket blasted out of the spear and chucked him off the cliff. And naturally, Xamot came down and was like, "Tomax, what happened?" It was pretty cool because he could feel all that, As far as Tomax and Xamot were concerned in the comics, they were as cool as they were comic relief with their whole they fill everything the other brother fills. I really enjoyed them on the Sunbow cartoon more so than I did in the comics, and that's a rarity for me. I normally like the comics more, but Tomax and Xamot were definitely more interesting in the cartoon, but they definitely had more time to work with them. They had an entire season to give them backstories, and they really did work with Tomax and Xamot in quite a few episodes. But those were my three favorites, and I wanted to share some of that with you. Now, in my head canon, I'm very much on Larry Hama's side, but I do add elements of the cartoon as well. They are the leaders of the Crimson Guard, but they are Cobra commanders. They're a commander rank in Cobra, and it's Cobra Commander's favorite rank. So every Cobra aspires to be a commander in my head canon. So now there is hierarchy above that, and then of course whoever is in Commander Cobra at the time, even above that. Now whether that's Cobra Commander sometimes or Serpentor other times. There's even been instances where it was Overlord, and in my head canon, I had Cobra Commander in prison for a long time, and I've got this MAG game, military action game coming up where I'm doing a G.I. Joe campaign in it, and nobody really knows what happened with Cobra Commander, and Cobra's kind of supposed to be defeated at this moment in time. So that's kind of my head canon going on right now, but we're just talking about Tomax and Xamot, and I just see them at the top of the Cobra Trooper level, but that's a lot of different Cobra, well-known Cobras like Wild Weasel's at the top of the Cobra Air Force. He's a commander of the Cobra Air Force. Copperhead is the commander of the Cobra Water Forces. That's the way I see things in my head canon. But that's just me. As far as comic book, they were just the Crimson Guard commanders, very loyal to Cobra Commander through the whole series. I did like that aspect. As far as I could tell, they never went against the real Cobra Commander. In the cartoon, it was quite different. They went against him all the time and took over Cobra, even in the Pyramid of Darkness, the first time they showed up. They didn't really do that so much after the fact. There was a really cool, I'm considered a Baroness episode where it was the spell of the siren, where she got the conch shell from the sirens and could make any man follow her orders just by blowing in the conch shell. And if they heard the sound, they were now mesmerized and had to follow her orders. And she got Tomax and Cobra Commander in that, but Xamot had escaped, and he actually helped the Joes defeat the Baroness and Destro, who started working together. It was a lot. There's a lot of cool Tomax and Xamot moments in the cartoon. Like I said, more so than in the comic book, but they were cool in the comic too. So there you got it. That's my take on Tomax and Xamot, and I hope you enjoyed that. Now, next week, I'm looking at a OG G.I. Joe character. I'm looking at Stalker, and I don't have the vintage Stalker figure. I never did. I've always wanted it, and I do want to pick up one, but I haven't been able to at the moment. I do have a vintage Stalker, and I will be showing that off next week, but it's not the original. And they had 5 or 6 vintage Stalkers, so I'll let that be a little bit of a surprise. And my promo, my On Joe Takes 22, will be up on Monday, and you'll be able to see the classified figure and with a little bit of music and some art and some file cards, and we're just going to enjoy some G.I. Joe together. With that all being said, Logan out. Very. I'm here. Greetings, Joe fans. I'm Christopher Logan Hilt, the G.I. Joe Gamer. And today on Joe Takes number 20, we're going to be talking about Duke from the Hilt. I wanted to do a special video on the 20th Joe Takes, so we're going to jump right in and we're going to start looking at figures. Now, this is one of those that when I broke him out to put him on the battle stand, he had an ankle mishap, and since I've been doing these, this is the second time it's happened to me, so I kind of feel kind of lucky. I see a lot of other people have other issues, and I do like this Duke figure. Now, I don't know why the classified figure doesn't come with a helmet. Pretty much all the Dukes had a helmet. There was one in '93 that had a helmet that couldn't come off. That was like one of the better looking Duke figures, but of the vintage line. But I didn't like it because the helmet didn't come off, and it kind of made his head look a little wonky. And I had the one in '92, so I didn't bother. But this Duke figure, it comes with the binoculars and the same gun that Stalker came with. That was I think that was their typical field leader issue rifle at the time when G.I. Joe first started. I know that's my headcanon probably. And it came with a backpack with the spade in it, the entrenching tool. So there is the vintage Duke. Pop his helmet back on. Okay. Now, like I said, I did have the Tiger Force Duke that came out in 1988. That was the same figure, just repainted and remolded in a different plastic, colored plastic. And he had brown hair, and I had that one, but I basically used that figure for parts because I like the original Duke better. I just did. And like I've said before, when you do that, as a kid, you do a lot of things like that. But I did pick up this Duke, and this one had a different issue altogether. Its weapons were made from such a cheap plastic that even the I think it was a bipod for the rocket launcher this character came with. We do have some artwork that's going to be in the end of the video that was in the on Joe Takes 20 video that I'm going to have at the end of this video because this is Joe Takes 20. But it shows his file card. I don't know if it. I may have got the artwork for this one too, but he's sitting on the cannon. And I always thought that looked really funny. But this figure is actually really good. And this is the one they had in the Deke cartoon. But, yeah, they drew him okay in the Deke cartoon, but it was the Deke cartoon. Now, this one they didn't use in the comics. They kind of skipped this one and went right to the one after, because in the comics, that was a better-looking uniform. And this one, this kind of, it's his desert camo, but with the reddish orange that's on there, I don't know, it's kind of a really... I don't know what color of red you would call it. It's almost kind of pink, but it was okay. I still like the original vintage Duke better, but that's how it is. So I do have some carded examples. Now they did one for the retro line that just came out not too long ago for the Walmart exclusive retro line, and this was as far as I'm concerned, the Screaming Duke with his mouth wide open. I have one in and out of the package. I had one in and out of the package for all of these. I actually had two Stalkers. That one became really easy to come by. I don't know why. But a lot of people say this is the one where he's taking a dump. But it's supposed to be him shouting, "Yo, Joe," but that's not what it looks like. The card art is still really nice, but then they fumbled on the file card with the cheap 5-language file cards I don't really care for, but there's that one. And then I do have the Tiger Force Duke in the 25th anniversary line, and it's a pretty good figure. It definitely looked better than the original, and I don't remember whether he had the blonde hair or not, or if they made his hair brown like the Tiger Force one. But we definitely will be looking at some of that kind of stuff here today too with the classified. I've got both of the Duke figures for the classified, so that's going to be pretty fun to look at. So there's his file card. Again, it's going to be at the end, in the end bits here when I do show off the art and the file cards. It's kind of cool. I picked up this one too. This is the one I really like from the modern line. It comes with this really cool stand and the flag. And this is the one. It's like supposed to be from G.I. Joe the movie, where he flies up onto the Statue of Liberty and plants the flag. So it's pretty cool. I do like this one a lot. Now that takes us to the classified box art. Now, of course, it had the standard back, and he was number 4 in the line. And there's the box. Good artwork. I like this one. I have that a better shot of that in the end bits. Interesting box, and I'm gonna hang on to this a little bit over here because I'm looking look at this other box that I have for a Duke figure, and this one happens to be number 40 in the line. And I thought it was really interesting, and this is why I kept this over here, is because if you look at it, you've got 04, 0, and 40. I thought that was really an interesting coincidence, if it's a coincidence. It's kind of cool that they did it that way. But then you got the box art. Now, I get a lot of people don't like the art of the box. I'm really digging it. And I like the fact that they put the picture of the figure there. Now, I don't like the ones where they have a picture of the figure on there. That's like Shipwreck. And to me, that was weird. Because, this is my favorite picture of Duke that they have on box art. And I really dig that. And that was the thumbnail for On Joe Takes 20. So I had a good shot of that one. And I scanned that one. So I was able to get a really good scan of it and put it up. Now, this is the look at the Tiger Force Ram. Now, when I take a look at Breaker, I'll compare the two bikes. And I'll be doing that in just a few weeks. I don't remember. I've got them all scheduled and what I'm going to be doing for quite a while. And so that's the box art for Duke. And then we'll look at the classified figure. Now, I'm pretty sure this was the original because it has the gold on it. I know they did a repaint. His head there. That covered up the gold. So I actually am glad I got the original because I don't know, I like the gold, and everybody complains about the Joe Pros, but I like them. Now the gun is my issue, and it's kind of warped and bent when it was in the box, and I've heated it and done all that stuff, and it just doesn't want to straighten out. And then you got the backpack with the entrenching tool, not exactly the same as the vintage, but it's very similar. So I'll compare them a little bit together there. It's similar but not the same. I think this was actually Airborne's backpack that just redone, if I remember correctly. But he's got the sidearm, and he didn't come with a combat knife, but he does have binoculars on his belt. They're little. Let me take the backpack off so you get a better look. But those come off, and so he did come with a pair of binoculars. They were more modern, and of course I had to drop something. What kind of Joe Takes can we have without dropping an accessory? So let me grab that real quick. But we'll put it back on, and we'll set him aside because we are going to look at what I've considered to be the superior classified Duke, and that would be the opposite of the original, because I didn't care much for the Tiger Force Duke in the vintage line, but this Tiger Force Duke, to me, the kickstand, I like the way that works too. You don't really need it. It just keeps it from moving around when you're trying to do things. And I forgot to put that up when I was filming On Joe Takes 20. That's the funny part. But this Duke, the Tiger Force Ram is pretty cool. I mean, some of the color choices, like the red on the gun, I mean, I would have rather that it was black, doesn't stay together very well. But neither did the original one that came with Breaker. But we'll take him off here so we can get a better look at this Duke figure. But we'll take a better look at the Ram cycle, the Tiger Force Ram without it. Now, those teeth, that's kind of cool. I like the black windshield. Again, I think they should have done the handlebars in black as well. The red, I'm not digging it. It's not bad. It's just, I don't know. I think black would have been a better color. So you can get a good look at that. I do like on the original Ram, the controls, and I did like that the handlebars were adjustable and you could move them around quite a bit. And it didn't move much this way, but the wheels move pretty good, and they're decent tires, and it's hefty. It's not a cheap toy. I did like the fact that it wasn't a cheap toy. The black seat is nice. Sidecar, just like the original Ram, looks good. It's a nice toy. Now, I was looking more forward to having the Ram, but I have to admit, this Duke figure is pretty good. I'm going to straighten him out here before I show you up here on the screen for you. Now, first and foremost, this Duke, the gun, they fixed it. Okay, that's the fix that I really, really like about these two figures. Now, I don't know what the problem was, but I know this is Stalker's gun. This was Stalker's gun too, so that doesn't bother me at all. I'm glad they gave him the Stalker's gun. It's decent. The clip comes out, or the magazine, I should say. It's a clip. The clips are inside the magazine, actually. But we're in the realm of make-believe at this point, right? Pistol again. I did like the tiger stripes on this particular Duke, not the original. The colors on this one are better. The hair is blonde like it's supposed to be. This is just a superior Duke figure to this one. Just about in every way, shape, or form. The only thing I like about this one is the colors are is more like the vintage. In some ways, and in some ways not. But good. I like the new Duke. He's pretty cool. Again, he's not in my top 10. Duke's a good character. Not one of my extreme favorites. My least favorite of the leaders. You know what? I actually think maybe I like Duke a little better than Falcon, so I can't say he's my least favorite leader. But of the sergeants, yep, I would say that Duke is my least favorite G.I. Joe field leader sergeant. Now, I know they always had Duke leading in the cartoon. Didn't lead much in the comics in the field. He did it first. Now, there are some really good ones, and I'll be looking at the comics here in a bit, and I'll be talking about that a little bit here in a minute. But this Duke, I don't know. It works for me. And again, it has the little binoculars on the back, which you can hardly see there, but you can still see them. But again, the major fix, I don't know why they didn't have him come with a gun like this when he first came out. I know they were going for something when they first brought him out. So that futuristic type feel to it, and they were trying to do their own thing, but I don't think they realized what they were dealing with. They were dealing with fans that wanted Joe's to look more like the vintage. And they were starting a new collection, and here we got all these new figures, and the only one that looked remotely, well, I have to say, I can't say that because they all kind of remotely look like the original vintage. You had Roadblock as the first one. I know that Snake Eyes was in the deluxe one first, but it was way, I don't have that one, and it's way different than the number 2 figure that came out. That was Snake Eyes as well, and then Destro was number 3, and Scarlet was 5, and Duke was 4. Those were your first wave of the classified figures. And they did okay with the original wave. That's what actually I bought the original wave, and that's what got me to start getting the rest of them. So it was kind of cool. I wasn't sure. The first one I got was Roadblock, ironically. And I had Roadblock. That was Roadblock. It was the only one I had for a long time. And then I got the Scarlet figure. And I wasn't sure whether I was going to collect them or not yet. But one day I had them out, and I was messing with them to see if I was going to collect them. And I put Scarlet on Roadblock shoulders, and I was like, okay, I'm done. These figures pose really well. And I left them like that for a good 2 weeks with Scarlet just sitting on her legs behind his back and him carrying her legs. And I should have taken a picture. I really should have. But I didn't. I might set it up again someday. But that was kind of cool. But it led me to get Snake Eyes and then Destro Duke. And so that takes us to the comic by Larry Hama, Marvel Comics. Now, this is one of the coolest covers they did back then. But it's really the only one that I could find a good shot of Duke in his original uniform. Now, there's a few others, but the coloration is off. It's kind of weird. And I looked through the whole series earlier before I picked this one out. And it was the first one. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's really the first. That's the first Duke that I found, and I'm like, I knew it. I was like, I'm going to go back, and this is going to be the one I'm going to show off because I went through the whole series, and way later on in the late, almost the last few, they had Duke in that 93 uniform that I don't have with the helmet that doesn't come off. Because in the comics that worked really good, and they had a few of him on that, but they weren't really that great. This is actually the best cover of the comics, in my opinion, with Duke on. And this is the issue where they had taken Cobra Commander prisoner in the issue before. This one, I do like this one with Clutch and Roadblock and Duke. This was really Duke's first mission as leader, and they captured Cobra Commander, and then they had him up on this mountain, and they assembled the original G.I. Joe headquarters and called it their prefab fortress. It was kind of cool. They ended up having a Skyhawk in here, and Storm Shadow actually showed up and rescued Cobra Commander, and then Storm Shadow, man, he the Joes tried to stop him, and Gung Ho was the first one to come in contact with him, and he just cut Gung Ho down, and Gung Ho nearly died. It's kind of cool, but Roadblock came up, and he put a hurting on Storm Shadow. Once he got a hold of Storm Shadow, it was over. It was the whole Expendables Dolph Lundgren versus Jet Li thing. Jet Li was whooping his butt, and then Dolph Lundgren got one hit in, and it was pretty much over. That was the same situation going on here. And so Roadblock, when they took him to Alcatraz after this, Roadblock didn't, Storm Shadow didn't mess with Roadblock at all. He waited until he was alone, and then he just escaped. It was pretty cool. But, he's a ninja. Of course he escaped. I don't know why they thought they could contain him. Some of my favorite memories with Duke in the comics were those two issues back to back. He was like covered ops, and him and Roadblock were sitting in a restaurant, and Roadblock was complaining about the food, and Duke was talking about it's so serious and not ignoring everything Roadblock was saying about the food, everything. He wasn't ignoring him, but he was paying more attention to the mission because he knew that Roadblock was also paying attention to the mission. Roadblock was one of his buddies from their previous unit, and so was Flint, and he brought Roadblock with him, and then he brought Flint over too. So really cool stuff in the comics, and Duke had his moments in the comics, but it really wasn't his series. It was more Hawk's series. And I know a lot of people may disagree with me on that point, but Hawk was really the leader. Now, for a while there, Duke came and took over. But once Hawk was the general again, Larry Hama, it was Hawk's show pretty much till the end. Even the last cover didn't have Duke on it, and they were closing the pit. And Duke was, as far as I could see, if he wasn't, it was his back or something. And it wasn't really a good cover image, even if he was on it, but I don't think he was. To me, this was the best cover of G.I. Joe with Duke, at least in the Marvel era. I'm not so sure about the Sunbow era. I mean, not Sunbow, the IDW era, because I've got some of those, and I may do a video where I look at the whole comic book series. In fact, I am going to be doing a video here coming up. I've been doing these D&D and Me and AD&D and Me, and next week I'm going to do like Endless Quest and Me, Endless Quest books and Me, and then the week after that I'm going to do G.I. Joe and Me, and I decided I'm going to look at all the comics that I have. I've got 3 of these full. I've got this one here that has all the vintage that I have. All of the vintage. I keep calling it vintage because that's the way the figures go too. But no, this is the Marvel run, and then I have Special Missions and some of the newer ones from Image and Devil's Due, and then I have I started some. I got an IDW box too, and I have some of those. But I mostly have for the IDW trade paperbacks. I did have a subscription to it for a while, but I don't remember really Duke being as prominent of a character as maybe he should have been, based on his popularity. But Larry Hama. He did take a liking to Duke later on, but I think at first he was kind of like, well, I already have Hawk. But I also really think Larry Hama preferred to tell the story from the enlisted man's perspective. But, it's my opinion. As far as the comics are concerned, though, as the series progressed, Duke was delegated to just sending people into the field, and he didn't really lead a lot of missions. Well, then there's the Sunbow cartoon. He was the leader in the first one. He was the leader in the first miniseries and in the second miniseries, and then the first season. And then Hawk came on for the second season, and it was still kind of Duke. I mean, Hawk was more in the second season, but Hawk wasn't in it before that because they didn't use him. They had Duke, and that was pretty cool. And I've talked about the way I like the command structure in that, and I see it as that Duke is Hawk's NCO, and when Hawk's not there, Duke is the leader of GI Joe, and so he was the acting field commander in the cartoon. He was originally the acting first sergeant, but I'm sure at some point they solidified that position. And Hawk always had Flint serving as his XO. Even Larry Hama was saying that at some point, if I remember right. I could be wrong on that. But he did say that he served as the XO of the Joe team for quite a while, which means he was the second in command, the executive officer. And Beachhead was his NCO. But four of them, they even laid that out in Arise, Serpento Arise, where Beachhead, Flint was saying Beachhead was getting the chain of command down. And Flint was saying first comes Hawk, then Duke, then me, and finally you. And then they added Sergeant Slaughter to the mix by the end of that miniseries. But for the most part, I kind of see it that Duke is Hawk's senior NCO. So he is their first shirt, which is why he can be in charge without when Hawk's not there. So that's the way I envision it, and that's the way I see it. So that's my take on the rank and structure of G.I. Joe. But I did want to mention some of the comics. I mean, not the comics, the Sunbow cartoon that I really liked. Duke was a prominent character in that series. Battle for the Train of Gold was a good one. Actually, that was more of a gung-ho episode, but Duke was featured prominently in the beginning, and he had blown up kind of by Major Blood and left. Everybody thought he's dead, but he got up, and Duke was always getting hurt in the cartoon. One of my least favorite things about Duke was the fact that he was either out of commission, in a coma, or something. Duke was always, oh no, Duke's hurt, so somebody else has to take charge. And in Revenge of Cobra, when he got captured, Flint took over. In the original series, when he got captured by Cobra and was gone for a bit, Scarlet and Stalker kind of took over. In some instances, Stalker seemed to be in charge, and others, Scarlet seemed to be in charge. And the cartoon was never really clear on the chain of command until the second season of the series. In the first season, it was Duke or Flint, and that's pretty much it. I mean, occasionally they'd have other Joes lead, but Duke was definitely the commanding officer in the cartoon. There was never any doubt about that. Let me see if I can think of my favorite episode with Duke. I have to say it's the Menace of the Mass Device. In spite of the fact that he got captured and he wasn't really in a coma, but he was unconscious when they found him, and then it took him a while to come around and stuff. But his was really the coolest adventure in that miniseries. Some of the coolest interactions with Cobra was between Cobra and Duke. So, Menace of the Mass Device. I did like 20 Questions, although Duke only showed up at the end. Which Hector Ramirez came up and kissed him on the cheek. He was just standing there aghast, like he couldn't even speak. And that was the one time I ever saw Duke at a loss for words. And the other one I really liked was the one. It was Excalibur, which was where him and Flint were off looking for quick kick, Footloose, and Spirit, and they were out on their own. And my cat is invading my video again, but the interaction between Duke and Flynn, and that is definitely my favorite Duke moment, really. And pretty much anything Flynn asked for, he would get, and Duke would just react to it like, "This is ridiculous," but it was fun to watch, and so I could talk GI Joe all night, but that's pretty much my take on Duke. And with that all being said, Logan out. Now, before I go, I did want to mention next week that I'm doing Tomax and Xamot from the Hill, so we'll be looking forward to that. And Luna had to get on camera, so here she is. But take it easy.
It's time. It's time for me to rise above the superstitious game. Hit above the minds that have no skills and always stay the same. I'm on the grind and speak that real and stack up on my chain. So no matter what you say to me, cause it's time for me to rise above this superstitious game. Hit above the minds that have no skills and always stay the same. I'm on the grind and speak that real and stack up on my chain. So no matter what you say to me, I'm gonna do my thing. I'm on the grind and every day I hustle for my dough. One of them up just for a buck to put it up in the flow. Get my foot up in the door, it's only the beginning. I ain't never gonna stop in this race, I know I'm winning. Cause A&R's and everybody's gonna feel this track like I squeezed one in your chest and stole your ass cap. As a matter of fact, to my fans, my rap is crack. Fiending for another line to drop up out my sack. Slacks and lacks don't make a difference in this game, but you gotta sell an image if you wanna make a name. I don't consider myself to be a link in the chain, cause I'm the one who holds the torch and light to the flame. Segregation of our nation, revelations is here. Trials and tribulations that we facing is clear. The end of the world is coming closer by the year, so you better clean your act. Judgment day is coming near. It's time for me to rise above the superstitious game. Hit above the minds that have no skills and always stay the same. I'm on the grind, I speak that real and stack up on my chain. So no matter what you say to me, cause it's time for me to rise above this superstitious game. Hit above the minds that have no skills and always stay the same. I'm on the grind, I speak that real and stack up on my chain. So no matter what you say to me, I'm gonna do my thing.
What up the black hole, put it on down with the shit in that skill. Let it make some meals with an axe package, try to make them deals with a get up on my back just to make them kills. Put up on the floor at the top of the game, put up with the jerks, it's a copy. Your name is a hop and a flame, but a drop on the pain. The real is young, I not be the same. You're too much for me to slow it down, I've been through it. I knew the day would come when I would just have to do it. Influenced by the highest power, knowledge itself. And you, the psychopathic tendencies for my health. So I fly to knock them down, gotta see what it do.
Sorry about that. For some reason, these got played in the wrong order. Let me go fix them, and I'll play Stalker. I don't know why they're playing in that order. I feel so smart today. Go back to the playlist. All right, I'll get this sorted right, and we'll do this proper. I meant to switch around the order, oldest to newest, and play these in the proper order. But I'm so smart. Here's Stalker. Probably won't play as many today. Greetings. I'm Christopher Logan Hill, the GI Joe Gamer. And today on Joe Takes number 22, we're talking about Stalker from the Hill. Now, normally I have the original vintage from the first figure of the line, but for Stalker, I never had that one. I have some really cool stand-ins, but it's not the same thing. I do, however, have the 1989 version of Stalker, which was really cool. And I was going to break out his kayak, but I decided against it. I mean, this particular version of Stalker is really cool. I love the little face mask. It's interesting that it came with it. Now, full disclosure, these are not Stalker's original arms. These are the 1986 Roadblock arms. Why Stalker's arms? I played with this figure so much. I broke the thumbs off, and I think I even cracked one of the arms. And so I took my 86 roadblock because I have like 3 roadblocks. I had 2 of the originals and the Tiger Force one, and I used my 86 roadblock.
What's up, Ray? I'm here. I'm just
Fix
watching
up
old
my
videos.
89 Stalker because it was the only Stalker I had at the time. And a couple of years later, they came out with this Stalker. Let's see if we can get the gun out of his face. Now, this Stalker came with a big old backpack that was actually screwed to the back. That's why it's all flat right there. I don't know if you really can see that, but you had to unscrew it in order to repair this figure, and I've had to repair it a couple of times over the years. This became my go-to Stalker. I mean, it's not the original green camo Stalker with the green beret. It has the black beret, which signifies special forces, of course. But well, there's lots of different berets that signify different things. The red beret signifies that you're an airborne ranger, but like Beachhead has. Well, I was gonna do a modern figure stand-in, but I figured I might as well just look at my carnage figures because I've got 2 of those to look at. Now, this was a really good version of Stalker. I really liked it, and it has the messed up file card that is in 5 languages and about a sentence and a half maybe for his file and his bio. But I have to say, this figure is, for me, up to the classified point, this was the best figure of Stalker they ever made, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I actually have 2. I do have the 25th anniversary one, but apparently I grabbed my backup Stalker, so not going to be in this video, unfortunately, but that's okay. Maybe another day I'll look at a bunch of my vintage ones, but we do have number 46 Stalker in the line. He's in the classified version. I like this box art, but I think they could have done a better job with his face. To me, for some reason, they made him look, I don't know, like his head was stretched out like some kind of, maybe if I angle it the way I see it sometimes, you can see it too, where his head just kind of looks like a bean. Oh, sorry. I don't know what else to call it, but I got a little moth in there. I'm going to have to deal with that. Well, of course I do. But that takes us to the classified figure himself, and I forgot to look up the name of this scarf. It starts with a B, but no big deal. It's the standard desert scarf that they use, and I am going to take it off because Stalker looks a lot better without it. I think he has the sheath for his pulverizer, which we'll take a look at in a minute. I like his pulverizer. It's his original gun. Now let me see if I can get this off without taking his head off, because you get it on without taking his head off, but it doesn't look like you can take it off without doing the same. But let me try. Oh, I managed. I popped it off, and actually this looks better on Breaker, but maybe that's just my opinion. Now, Stalker is one of those figures that actually looks good with or without the hat. He's got a really cool haircut. He's got a scar right there on the side of his head, which, Stalker has seen a lot of battles, so naturally. Now, he came with this big old heavy machine gun with this nice box clip or magazine, I'm sorry. And then he came with his pulverizer, which has the removable magazine that matches his original 1982-83 version that they also gave to Duke, the Tiger Force Duke. Really cool gun. I like his pistol, and he comes with a silencer too. And then he comes with a big old knife. Now, the original Stalker also came with a knife on his web gear, his tactical gear, however you want to call it. Let's get his beret back on him, because that's the way Stalker's supposed to look, with the nice green beret even though he's not a Green Beret. But yeah, I prefer the look on Stalker. You know what? Maybe Stalker is a Green Beret. I know he's an Army Ranger. That's his MOS, but military occupational specialty. And I really like this figure. He's my top 10 Joes. He's my number 10. Always was one of my favorite field leaders. I think only second to Flint. And Flint's an officer, but this is definitely my favorite NCO. Favorite leader NCO. I mean, I think I like Beachhead a little better. Well, I definitely like Beachhead better as a character, but Stalker as a leader, this is your man right here. Now, a lot of times they will forget that Stalker is not just a medic. He's he's a ranger, but he's also an interpreter and a medic. And they often forget that. There's been a lot of instances where he could have patched his buddies up, even in the comics. I don't know if it's just an oversight. Never in the cartoon did they ever have him act in the role as a medic, but that is definitely his secondary specialty, is medic interpreter. So, and I know he speaks a lot of different languages. So, well, that takes us to the Sunbow cartoon. And this week I watched Menace of the Mass Device, which he was prominently featured in. My favorite scene in that, and probably my favorite scene with Stalker, is when he was explaining to Cobra that G.I. Joe was standing down and they were cooperating, and he had this big scene behind him where the troops were marching and the tanks were moving and the helicopters were flying in, and he's just in the middle of his spill still, and Gung Ho shows up and picks up one of the tanks, and he's telling him to get out of the shot. You know, what are you doing? And then they come in and tell him, "Oh, you're not. The Cobra's not picking up the broadcast anymore, so you're all good, Stalker." So it was really funny, and they actually kind of put the action figures into the movie. It was pretty cool. It was it was turned into the 5-part miniseries originally, and then they made it into a movie. And on my copy of the DVD, actually I have two, but on the one that comes with the big Foot Locker, you can actually watch it as a movie instead of in 5 parts, which is kind of cool. You can do that with Revenge of Cobra and Pyramid of Darkness. And all the 2-part episodes on that, you can also watch as without the middle parts. Now, that works with all of them except for the Traitor, because the Traitor has this intro at the beginning of the 2nd episode with Hector Ramirez. And for some reason, when they put the 2 episodes together, they skip that part because that's the recap, really. Now, the other ones I watched 3 episodes with Stalker. He's not in the series a lot. The first one I watched was Countdown for Zartan, which he was definitely on the squad for that. Lady J was the team leader. There was a scene at the end of that where him and Zartan have a confrontation, and it's pretty cool. He also makes fun of Gung Ho's Gumbo. Let me see. After that, I watched the Mind Menace. If I remember the name of that one, it was the one where they were experimenting with mental powers, and they went to Easter Island, and the Cobras had taken over the whole island, and they had turned some of the Moai into they had lasers coming out of their eyes, and they had modified them in some way, and then they had one of these psychics actually telekinetics. Airborne's brother, as a matter of fact, ripped the Moai out of the ground, and they came out as full statues and attacked Airborne and Flash. It was pretty cool. But Stalker was in the end of that when Duke and Airborne formed a squad to go after Cobra on their Himalayan base on K-10. And Stalker wasn't very very prominent in that one, but it was cool. Him and Flash had this scene with an out-of-body traveler. It was kind of cool. It was nice that him and Flash got to work together in the cartoon as well, being 2 of the original Joes. And then the other one I watched was Battle for the Train of Gold. And when Stalker and when Duke, Snake Eyes, and Scarlet were captured by Cobra, he kind of took over him and Gung Ho. It was kind of neat to see him in that role in the cartoon. It wasn't a big role, but it was it was nice to see him in that capacity again. Like he was in Menace of the Masterminds, because him and Scarlet took over in that too. The cover I chose is number 39, and I am gonna put on my glasses here for a second because I'm gonna take a look at the last page because Stalker has a really good line in that, and I wanted to read it and show you. But I wanted to give you a close-up look at the comic without the bag too, because that's just such a cool cover with him and Gung Ho just hiding in the jungle. It's really cool. What's funny is Gung Ho's not in this one. It's Stalker, Ripcord, Roadblock, and Recondo. They meet up with Recondo. Now that might have been supposed to have been Roadblock, but the way they colored that's definitely that the cover appearance is supposed to be Gung Ho. Oh, I am wrong. Gung Ho's in that too. That's right. Stalker liked to have Gung Ho on missions with him. And the line I wanted to have here to read and show you was right on the last page of the comic, where they had rescued Dr. Adele Burkhart again, like they did in the first issue. She had gotten captured, but she's an activist, and she puts herself in those situations sometimes. She's really trying to do good. She's actually a really interesting character throughout the series. But Ripcord was kind of chewing her out, and she was feeling really bad because people had gotten killed. And Stalker has this line on the last page here, right? Well, there's one more page after, but this is really the last bit here. And he says to Ripcord, he says, "At ease, troop. Nobody asked you to sign up for this duty. You did what you thought was right. Get this through your head. We're not fighting to have everybody think the way we do. We're fighting so that people can have the right to think the way they want, even if they don't agree with us." I really, really like that line, and it stuck with me over the years, and I completely agree with that statement. So, Stalker, man. Throughout the series, he was the go-to field commander for G.I. Joe. He led, I'm pretty sure he's led more missions than any other G.I. Joe field leader. Right from the get-go, him and Hawk he was Hawk's senior NCO there at the beginning. And whenever a mission came up, issue 2, he led that mission. In the one with Quinn, Snake Eyes, Breaker, and Gung Ho that I was looking at, and I think the last Joe Takes, he was the leader of that too. It might have been on my G.I. Joe and Me that I did a couple nights ago. But anyway, I picked out this cover because I really enjoyed it. And I think Stalker is probably one of the most intense characters. And over the years, they revealed that a lot about his background. And I don't remember whether it's in this series or the IDW series, but he ended up. There was a gal in the special missions that he met that he ended up marrying, and he became a stepfather to her son. And then they had a son together, right, or a daughter. I don't remember which, but. So Stalker ended up having a life outside of G.I. Joe too, and that was pretty cool. And of course, he was in Vietnam with Snake Eyes and Stalker. So the three of them, they went way back, and there were actually some missions where Stalker and Storm Shadow were working together. In fact, there was a storyline that Larry Hama wrote where they were fugitives of the U.S. government together. That was kind of neat. And then Storm Shadow got stabbed, and Stalker and Scarlet. Well, Scarlet stabbed him, but she realized she was in the wrong, and then they had to save Storm Shadow. It was kind of cool. But long history of G.I. Joe with for Stalker in the comics. I know Larry Hama saw him as his go-to field leader, and as far as I'm concerned, he's for my headcanon and my storylines that I do, he is the Fire Team Alpha leader, and so he's basically my number one squad leader. So, platoon sergeant. Then he has a couple squad leaders that are in 2 squads in each platoon. That's kind of how I do things. And as far as I'm concerned, I know they started him as a sergeant. and then they skipped staff sergeant for some reason, because I know they promoted him in the comics in issue right after Duke showed up, and then they announced that Duke was going to be the field leader. General Austin gave them all promotions. So Stalker had become a staff sergeant at that point. But later on, started with the Tundra Ranger, he was E7, which is a sergeant first class. Now, in my headcanon, he's a command sergeant major, just like Beachhead. The two of them are the go-to platoon sergeants for Duke, Flint and Hawk, who that's the hierarchy of G.I. Joe, really. Now, I know a lot of people may see it differently, but that's how I do it. As a character, I really see Stalker as important to the overall story, so much that he actually brought Snake Eyes into G.I. Joe. He helped Hawk recruit him, and so during the origins story, they had all been tied in together in some manner. Hawk, Stalker, and Snake Eyes. It was kind of cool. Now there is Larry Hama did write a G.I. Joe Origins, I think is what he called it, for IDW, where he did like a pre-issue to number 1, and they did a 3-part limited series of it, and it was really cool in that they did a lot of stuff with all the Joes, and he had recruited Stalker because Stalker had stabbed himself through the hand to intimidate somebody into talking. And that was all it took to endear him to Hawk at the time, when Hawk was a colonel. And Hawk chose him to come onto the team, the Joe team, when he was assembling G.I. Joe. So it was pretty cool that Larry Hama went back and told some of those stories. And I haven't talked much about the IDW series, but I have enjoyed it, and I do have quite a few of them. I didn't get to those in G.I. Joe and Me, but next month I'm probably going to do a G.I. Joe and Me too, and I'm going to get into those issues of G.I. Joe from the IDW series. I guess that is my take on Stalker. I mean, he's my fire team alpha leader, and one of my go-to characters. Definitely in my top 10 favorite Joes. And I guess with that all being said, Logan out.
Here, County Cap Collectibles, we're just kind of watching an old Joe of mine. And this was my take on Stalker. I'm in the chat.
Greetings, I'm Christopher Logan Hilt, and today on Joe Takes number 23, we're going to be talking about Cobra Ninjas from the Hilt. Now, this will be my second Cobra troop builder, and it's hard to know where to start with them. I know the Classified has a couple of basic Cobra Ninjas. Now, I've already covered Storm Shadow, so I will be going over that a little bit because he is the original Cobra Ninja, so you can't really talk about Cobra Ninjas without mentioning Storm Shadow. What I do have here, though, is a little box full of ninjas that I will be showing off to you here real quick. Well, not necessarily real quick, but after Storm Shadow went over to G.I. Joe in 1990, they came out with some ninjas for Cobra. Cobra Ninja became known as the Night Creepers, and now I have a couple of these guys, and they're pretty cool. They came with a lot of decent weapons, and they were definitely fun to play with. Now, in '97, they brought out an Arctic 3-pack, and in that 3-pack, they had a white Firefly, which was kind of cool, and I'm pretty sure one of the Snow Serpents. I don't remember if I'm right about that, but I think so. But it was all white. It was really neat. And then they had this Snow Night Creeper. It was pretty cool. I got to take care of this. Sorry, but I'm just having one of those days, one of those weeks, really. Now, later on, they came out with, in 1993, I'm pretty sure, the Night Creeper leader, who in the comics was named Aleph. I don't know if this particular version of Night Creeper was Aleph, but that's what I always called him because that's what Larry Hama called the Night Creeper leader. Now, they came out with a second version in the vintage line of Night Creeper, and this is what he looked like. This was the Ninja Force Night Creeper, and it was kind of cool. After that, they had the Valor versus Venom line, but also in the Ninja Force, I was almost forgetting them. I had them at the back here because their knees are so weak. We had Slice and Dice. Slice and Dice. I really liked these two characters. They were partners. They were Cobra Ninjas. Slice was a really awesome swordsman. It's kind of in the name, I suppose. Dice used a bow staff that was pretty cool. And he's a brawler and a bone breaker. So he's just a big dude. Sort of like if you made a cross between a ninja and a samurai. Not samurai, a sumo wrestler. That's what I meant to say. So imagine if Storm Shadow and E Honda, merged and became one being, and you would get Dice, and that's kind of what they did with him. Now, they also had one other figure in the vintage line, and so a lot of people were saying, well, they never had blue ninjas before, but they did, and that was your Ninja Viper, the first Cobra Ninja that wasn't the Night Creepers or Storm Shadow. It is basically a Storm Shadow figure, it's a repaint. But the Ninja Viper was your first blue ninja. It was never called the Blue Ninja, but it was, in every sense of the word, was kind of a aquamarine or blue-green ninja. Now, in the Spy Troops, they came out with another Night Creeper and had him disguised as Wetsuit, and he was pretty cool. But if you take off the mask and the oxygen outfit, he is a Night Creeper. And of course, I've got his flippers there so that he can put those on his feet. He doesn't stand very well with those, so it was a neat figure. Nice idea, and that was they had other versions of Night Creeper in the early 2000s, and that's the style they had with different colors. Now they also came out with, in the Valor versus Venom line, they came out with, I had Slice come out again, same figure, just different, a repaint. I have it, but I already had the original. The other one is bright orange, and I'm like, well, I'm going to show the original Slice. His partner in Valor versus Venom was Slash, and this was an interesting figure. They had definitely a different kind of partnership than Slice and Dice did. But it was interesting. They were kind of funny. also, right at the end of the Valor versus Venom era, they came out with a big pack of ninjas with Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes, of course. And then they also had this arch, a ninja arch. Well, not necessarily ninja, but it was like a dojo arch, one of those shrine arches in Japan that were really beautiful. I actually have two of them because I ended up getting one with a different set as well. But I think I've only got one complete between the two of them because I lost one of the pieces because it breaks apart the whole archway, so you can simulate that it gets broken apart. Now, one of the ninjas in that came with it, besides Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, was the Black Dragon Ninja. Now, they had other ones, but I think this is the only one they put out in stores, and it was pretty cool. The Black Dragon Ninja, that's black and gold. It might as well be an Iron Grenadier, is what he really looked like, or Grenadier, however you want to say it. Storm Shadow had one last apprentice in Cobra, and that was Shadow Strike, and they brought his figure out at that time. And the other figure they had in that pack is my only actual Red Ninja that's not a modern figure. I actually have a couple of Red Ninjas in the modern line. But this was Red Ninja Viper, and he was basically just a repaint of the 88 Storm Shadow. But it looked pretty cool. So, I mean, it might be a slightly different, but I'm pretty sure it's an exact repaint, except for maybe the face sculpt. Kind of looks like the Shadow. His nose goes under the mask, and Storm Shadow didn't look like that. So, I think the head sculpt was a little different. Of course, we have the original Storm Shadow that came out in a comic 2-pack. Now, the good part about this is now that I've looked at them all, I can just put them all back in the box and put them away here a little later. And then we can start looking at the classified. And I don't really use ninjas a lot. I'm not a big ninja guy. I like the figures, but in my own storylines, I never really showcase the ninjas a lot. Well, Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, but they were part of the G.I. Joe lore, and I really wasn't a big fan of the Ninja Force. I mean, it was okay, and we got another Scarlet in the vintage line, and it was okay. It wasn't great. I didn't like the play features, like let's see here, Slice. If I could grab Slice or Dice real quick here, I'll show you. Each of them had this gimmick of a play feature, and basically what you would do is Slice had, you could, I think mine's broken, maybe it's not, but there it goes. You pull the arm back, and it's supposed to simulate that he's doing his ninja strike move. And they each had their own. Each move had their own name. We see Dice here, and that's why the knees are so bad, because I was always playing with him. Now Dice, see, you get a hold of him and you let him go, and he would flip back. He had a spring-loaded thing in his waist, and that was his feature, and it was okay. Like I said, they each had one, but it made it so you couldn't repair the figures. Notoriously, the Storm Shadow in the Ninja Force, I have one, but I can't get the legs back on it without taking it all apart and redoing the glue and all of that. But I'm not really that handy with stuff like that. Now, that takes us to the classified, and we're going to take a look, starting at the Red Ninja. This is his box, and of course my nose is going to decide to do its thing. Sorry. But I don't know if you can see that really well because it was really dark. Let me see if I can get the light on it. But I always thought he kind of looked undead, like a zombie ninja or something. It was kind of cool. And then they had, naturally they brought out the blue ninjas a little later. So this was the blue ninjas. The blue ninjas were in the comics too, even the vintage. The old Marvel comics were. It basically matches up with the figures, the Marvel run and the vintage action figures. But this was number 51 in the line, and the back just actually shows the figures instead of it's one of the more newer packaging, box packaging. And this didn't have one of those foot lockers But I do have the I think I've got most of the accessories on them. So we'll start with the Red Ninja. Now this is a pretty cool figure. I like the way it looked. A lot of people complain that it didn't look like the original Red Ninja, and I'm like, well, there really wasn't a Red Ninja per se until the modern line, and it was basically just a repainted Storm Shadow. This is not a repainted Storm Shadow. It actually came out in the classified line before, and he had a couple of sighs and a couple of sickles, and then he had this massive Masamune. I think that's how you pronounce that, Masamune. Japanese-wise, if you go phonetically, it should be Masamune, but, I could be wrong. I mean, English is a messed up language. I don't know how to speak Japanese, so I really can't say. But, yeah, he had another axe like this. I left that in his package. It's just he came with a lot of accessories, and they didn't all fit on him very well. Now, I actually don't think this is feasible, this sword going on the waist or the back, but there is a spot for a sword on the backpack between the two sickles, and it's kind of cool. I've got on the male blue ninja, because of the two pack of the blue ninjas. One's male, one's female. It's pretty cool, and I'll show you how I arranged the sickles for him. You can do it however you want, and I actually don't have I have the head for it in the box there. And I was going to break them out, but I decided you're already seeing the Red Ninja, so there's no real point of seeing that again when you have this really cool Japanese. I can't remember how to say demon in Japanese. I used to know, but slipped my mind at the moment, of course. But yeah, I put the big sword in the back, and this one actually fits better. But then I put the sickles inward instead of outward, because different ninjas I feel comfortable doing different things. Of course, he's got the sai on the back there, the two sai. I don't know if you can see that very well, but there are two of them if I can do it right. But then I put his katana on his waist, and I just put both of the hatchets in his hands. He basically came with the same accessories that the Red Ninja did, and it was a neat figure. I prefer the female blue ninja, however. And it was basically just a repaint of the Akiko, except for the two heads. Now, the female head is just a smaller version of the Red Ninja head, but it is smaller and it looks feminine. But I like this fox mask. I think that's what it is. These Japanese masks are really cool. She came with a larger sickle and a bow and a katana. So I thought she definitely came with better weapons than Akiko did, but basically the same figure for the movie figure of Akiko. And I will be doing my Joe take on Akiko here in October. So I'm doing coming up on this month. I've got if I can get her to stand up now that one of her feet have come off the pegs, of course. I'm doing a ladies month for my Joe takes. So next week is going to be Cover Girl. Now, that will take us to comics. In the comics, they had the Red Ninjas here that were throughout the series. They didn't appear a lot. Hama really focused on the back and forth between Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow a lot. And Zartan. Zartan got thrown in the mix, and then later on, Jinx was added to that. Now, this cover here is after the Cobra Civil War, and I will bust this out so you can get a better look at it up close. I really love this cover. Basically, Zartan is in charge of the Koga ninjas, is what they call the Red Ninjas in the comics. And then later on, Firefly just showed up and he was their boss. It's like, what happened to Zartan being in charge of them? I don't know. It makes me wonder if Larry Hama forgot and just didn't care anymore, or if Zartan, because Zartan did disappear there for a while. They both did. So who knows? I guess the Red Ninjas thought they needed a leader, and so they jumped at the chance to follow either one. But yeah, in that storyline with Firefly, it turned out that he had been a Koga ninja all along. So, well, not really. He was part of a rival clan. It was kind of interesting, a rival, but peaceful. They were on good terms. But with Zartan and the ninjas in this, he basically took the imposter Cobra Commander for the 7th and basically told him how it was going to be after Cobra Civil War. But, then things changed, and Zartan had a change of heart when he went and tried to kill Storm Shadow, because Storm Shadow found out that he had killed the Hard Master, Storm Shadow's uncle, and it became that story there for a while. And it was interesting. And so I thought this was the coolest cover with the ninjas. I mean, they had some other ones in the issue 90s with Snake Eyes' second origin story, but I'm missing a lot of those. So this was the coolest one I still have, with the Red Ninjas prominently on the cover. Now, cartoon, they didn't really do the ninjas a lot. They did have a Ninja Battles, one that was sort of like a live action comic that they did. And the one episode of the cartoon, and I didn't get a chance to watch this week, was I'm pretty sure it was called Cobra Quake, and Bazooka was in that, and Lady J, and Keiko, might as well be a Kiko, but she had a different name, and she had a white gi that she wore throughout the episode. And Quick Kick was in that, and Gung Ho, and Flint, and there was a really cool scene where they went to this monastery, and Cobra had taken it over, and they were looking for this professor that lived there. I don't know if it was a monastery, but that's what it looked like when they actually went there. And Storm Shadow had a ton of ninjas there that were his apprentices, all wearing white gis like his. So they had the thought that there should be more than one Cobra ninja even back then. So you could have troop built Storm Shadow, and I've got a couple of them. I showed those off in my Storm Shadow video, but they're not in very great shape. I use my best example of Storm Shadow in the O-ring style to show you, and that's pretty much how it was in the comics and the cartoon. They were just there for the most part, all the different Cobra ninjas. Now, for me, in my head canon, like I said, I don't really use them, but when I do, a lot of the ninjas are Storm Shadow clones, and then they have the red ninjas and the blue ninjas. It's they use them for cannon fodder and for protection more often than they use them for anything else. But I hope you like looking at all my ninjas and my box of ninjas and my classified ninjas. And talking a bit about the comics, not really a lot. Like I said, they were sporadic throughout the comics. They became more prominent later, especially when he introduced the blue ninjas, and that in the IDW series really took off with the blue ninjas, who were like cyborgs. But like I was saying with this red ninja, I'm going to take one little quick look at him again for you. Those eyes, they look so inhuman, and it could just be the mask. But like I said, it kind of looked like a zombie ninja, and I really like this figure. The blue one, not as much, but it's still a pretty cool figure. I like the demon mask that he came with, and the fox mask for the female ninja. And so I guess I might as well show them together, seeing how I didn't do that. The two blue ninjas, and there you go. Got the fox ninja and the demon ninja, which was really neat. I like the way they did this 2-pack. Made it a troop builder, just like the red ninja, and they pretty much called it that. And actually, in the classified series, the red ninja is technically the first troop builder. So that's where we're at with the Cobra Ninjas. Again, like I said, I hope you enjoyed my video and my take on all the Cobra Ninjas. And with that all being said, Logan out. Yeah, that was Cobra Ninjas. Let me that one's the right one. All right, so there we are. Hope you enjoyed those Joe Takes Classics. I'm going to be doing Joe Takes Classics number 6 next month on, I believe, the 17th. Let me look here. Yeah, the 18th on a Thursday night. But it's going to be a little later. It's going to be at 9 p.m. Mountain Time because I'm going to be on Rushmore show that night too.
at 6 Mountain Time. So yeah, I want to give plenty of time to do that show and then go do my Joe takes. And I'll do all 4 of the ladies' night on that episode. So that should be fun. And that's actually going to be the first ones I actually did all live. So it's kind of good that I ended up breaking them up this way. Anyway, Rushmore when? That's going to be July 18th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, where they do their best, the 4 best of everything, the top 4, and so they got a pretty cool channel and show, and they invited me on, so I'm gonna go on there and guest host one night. It should be fun to hang out with Kirk and Andy. I'll enjoy that. Now, before I take off here, I'm going to mention that later on tonight is the Spine Takes train. I don't know who all's coming on. Normally, it starts with Melodope and then moves on to the rest of the train. The description, in the description down below, I have links to all of that, so you can check those guys out tonight before Spine Takes. And I will be on the Spine Takes panel tonight with the Tiger. We'll both be on tonight. I'm on every week now, so with Sith Lordly, Dave C, yeah, Uncanny Swag, Ambassador Dan, De La Torre, and now also Burt Beats. So it should be a lot of fun tonight. Hope to see you all there. Now, as far as Joe Takes is concerned, I hope you enjoyed this compilation. I know I accidentally played Duke out of order, but you got a bonus Duke in this one, and it works out. In the long run, it's going to work out better, so because I can have all the ladies' nights in one video. So that's cool, because in October of last year in 2023, what I did was I had CoverGirl, Lady J, and Akiko, and then Zorana. So that should be a lot of fun. And let me get this this Cobra symbol off of here, because we're going old school next time. And I'll be running Ravagers of Carnage on Monday night at 5 p.m. So please check us out for that. And then tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, all my times are generally Mountain because that's where I live, is in the Mountain Times time zone. I'm going to be doing at 7 p.m. Mountain Time my short take on Wild Weasel and the Rattler, and I'll actually be opening a 25th anniversary Rattler with Wild Weasel. So that should be fun. I have one that's the packaging's kind of damaged a little bit, so I decided to just go ahead and open it and do it on that show on live on Sunday night. So tomorrow night. So it should be a lot of fun. Hope you guys just join me for that. And like I said, these are going to go back to Thursday nights because they don't seem to do as well on Saturdays. I think what I'll do on Saturdays is just have my tribute videos for the week premiere in the morning, and not actually premiere, but be on at this time, and that'll be my Saturday thing. Except for every once in a while I'll come on and do Joe Takes and things like that, and the Hilt fam will come on and play board games. Saturday will be that kind of thing, easy going. What's that topic on the Rushmore show? I don't know. They haven't let me know yet, so it should be fun to find out. And but our motto here at From the Hills is give me a topic and we'll take it on. So it should be a lot of fun. All right, thanks for joining me, Barry, and the Bud Files, if you're still here, and Sith Lordly was here, and Rodini was here. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you all joining me. And I'm pretty sure I gave everybody a proper shout out, but yeah, definitely check out the Spine Takes train tonight. And again, links are all in the description. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I gave everybody a proper shout out. So thanks for joining me. And as we leave, I'm going to play you a little bit of music. So on that note, Logan out.
The ultimate red versus blue, but it sure isn't anything new. Cobra broke out onto the scene. G.I. Joe reported for duty unseen. Yo, Joe is the Joe's battle cry. Red is the choice of laser
Yep, that made sense. All right, it's over. Go on home now.